I'm Brittany Krim. I'm the registered and licensed dietitian at the Fitness Institute of Texas at the University of Texas at Austin. Right now we're going to talk about food labels and really understanding what you're looking for when you go to the grocery store and you look at those labels and try and understand what is this really telling me and what does this mean to me. So let's look at a food label. This is just a generic food product. We're going to start at the top and we're going to work our way down. So starting at the top, you see we have our serving size, okay? That is their recommended serving amount each time you're going to eat this food. Before, that used to be the only information available until recent years where they added the servings per container. They did this because so many people thought the serving size meant I can eat the whole box for this amount of calories, when that's not the case. That is, you can eat half a cup of this product and there are actually 15 servings in this. So if you did eat the whole box, you would have to multiply 230 by 15 to find out how many calories you're getting. This is really common on things like cereal, crackers, and especially beverages. A lot of beverages like Gatorade and things of that nature will say an 8-ounce serving when the actual drink is going to be 2.5 servings. So you need to be aware of how many calories you're actually getting, because remember, it's always a calorie balance issue. So then let's come to the calories. This is the number of calories in that serving of food. The calories from fat right here is quick general information, but it's also information that you could calculate based on the knowledge that you've been given in the original nutrition class that we did. And that is that fat has 9 calories per gram. Therefore, if you come down here and you multiply 9 by 11, well, you're going to get 99, which is pretty darn close to 100, okay? When we're looking at total fat, they're always going to list these two subparts. The two subparts are saturated and trans. Remember, saturated and trans fats are the unhealthy fats and the ones that you need to be worried about for cardiovascular disease. The reason they put them on the label is because they are detrimental to your health. The poly and mono unsaturated fats are not required by the FDA to be put on the nutrition label. Why? Well, because they are not detrimental to your health. If anything, we know they're good for your health. So you would think that more people would put them on their label, but because it's not mandatory, they will often be left off. If you want to find out how many good fats are in a product, all you have to do is subtract the saturated and trans fats from the total fat. So for example here, 11 minus 2 minus 0 is 9. So we know that there are 9 grams of good fat in this product, which is not too shabby. Then we come down and we will have cholesterol. Cholesterol is also a mandatory nutrition component of the nutrition label. Right here we have 0 milligrams, which is excellent. This is a cholesterol-free food. However, when we think about cholesterol, you need to think about the daily recommendation is less than 300 milligrams a day. Egg yolks have 317 milligrams of cholesterol in them, so one egg yolk exceeds your daily recommendation for cholesterol. Think about that when you look at your nutrition label and it says that this product has 250 grams of cholesterol. Well, then obviously this is probably not the most heart-healthy product for you to pick. In fact, your body makes enough of its own cholesterol that you don't even need cholesterol from outside sources. So the more cholesterol-free foods like this one that you can pick, the better off you're going to be in terms of protecting your heart. The next nutrient they'll list is sodium. Sodium is also a required listing because sodium is one of those lovely nutrients that can cause heart disease and other serious health conditions. So of course they put it on here. Now, the average recommendation for sodium is going to be less than 2,400 milligrams a day. A normal healthy person can handle up to 3,000 or 3,500 provided they do not have any type of cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, or any other comorbidities such as that. However, we really encourage people to stick with the less than 2,400 milligrams. Again, thinking about that, if you look at the food label and it is not 95, but say it's 950 milligrams of sodium, well, that's over a third of your sodium for the day in that one food product in one serving. That's a lot of sodium, and that's probably not the healthiest food choice for you. After sodium, you will see the total carbohydrates. Total carbohydrates is going to represent the total number of simple and complex carbohydrates. When we look at dietary fiber, this is telling us pretty much the amount of non-absorbable carbohydrate. But remember that just because it's non-absorbable doesn't mean that it's going to be saving you a ton of calories, since carbohydrates are only 4 calories per gram. So you saved a whole 12 calories on this food product. Again, fiber being great for your heart health and for your colon health, but not necessarily going to be something that's going to make that food a free food, something that you can eat as much as you like of. Then you'll see it has sugars. This is going to be simple sugars found in the product. This one has 18 grams of simple sugar. This is often misconstrued to be refined sugar, and that is not necessarily the case. If this were a cereal and it were Frosted Flakes, well then I could assume that that is refined sugar, because that's probably the grams of frosting on my flakes. However, if it were something like Special K red berries, well then they dried the fruit, and remember, fruit is a simple sugar as well, and it's going to be represented here too. So you need to keep that in mind, and you need to be able to look at the ingredients list and identify, is it refined sugar or is it fruit sugar? Because fruit sugar is packed with nutrition and may not be such a bad choice for you to make. If you want to know how many grams of complex carbohydrate are in something, you just subtract the sugar grams from the total carbohydrates. So this one has 14 grams of complex carbohydrate in it. And then we list protein just for your general knowledge to know how many grams of protein that you're taking in. You will always see these 4 vitamins and minerals listed. Sometimes they'll include more. Typically they'll include more if they're rich in certain nutrients and they want you to know that. But this is mandated by FDA that these 4 be listed at all times. Why? Because these 4 are some of our most common deficiencies in America. And so they want to make sure that people know if they're getting enough calcium and iron, vitamin C, and vitamin A. Down at the bottom of the food label, you will find this. This is, to me, somewhat inappropriate, simply because the majority of people, especially when you're looking at weight loss, are not going to be eating 2,000 to 2,500 calories a day. And this is breaking down your general recommendations for your fat, cholesterol, sodium, carbohydrate needs based on a 2,000 calorie or a 2,500 calorie diet. Again, if you're a female trying to lose weight, chances are you're eating between 1,300 and 1,500 calories a day. Therefore, these percentages mean nothing to you. And if you're a male, you may be on 1,800 and 2,000, so the 2,000 might be okay, but 2,500, probably a little too high. And also, you'll always be able to see what we learned in our first lecture, which is fat has 9 calories per gram, carbohydrates has 4, and protein has 4. So let's talk about the ingredient list. What does all this stuff mean to me? Well, it's stuff that you should be able to look at and help you identify what you're really getting and what they're lying about. Because sometimes they can put claims on their product that aren't necessarily supported by their ingredient label, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. When you look at the ingredients, the very first ingredient, and then so on down the line, is going to be based off of what has the highest percentage of that in the product. So for example, the whole grain wheat has the highest percentage of that food product and is the most prominent ingredient. Then we have sugar. You can think of this as your cane sugar and refined sugar and all these other things. Now, a lot of things can say they are trans fat free, but if you see the word hydrogenated anywhere, you know that it is not a trans fat free product. So if you see partially hydrogenated, somewhat hydrogenated, just plain hydrogenated by itself, anything with that word in there means that there is trans fat in that product, and it's probably something you want to stay away from. Also, one thing to look for is going to be your high fructose corn syrup, and if you're trying to avoid that, making sure that you're also looking for anything that says corn sugar, which is their new way of referring to it, or any kind of high fructose modified something. Okay? Corn syrup is not the same as high fructose corn syrup. So if you see corn syrup in an ingredients list, it is not necessarily an unhealthy food product. You'll also see lots of things down here, natural and artificial flavors, etc. Notice this word right here, sorbitol. Anything with an OL on the end means it has fake sugar in it, and any type of OL is going to be a sugar alcohol. You need to be careful with these guys because they're not always very friendly to your GI system and can cause some really uncomfortable GI upset. So you never want to take in a food in a large amount that has some of these fake sugars in them. So what do all these lovely labels mean? You have to remember that the grocery store is a business and they are trying to sell you something, and all of the food products are trying to sell you things. They actually work with the grocery store to pick the right shelf level and the right location of the shelf to be on in order to appeal to the right person more. For example, things that appeal to women and moms and things of that nature are going to be around the 4th or 5th shelf because the average woman is about 5'4", 5'5". Things that are supposed to appeal to men are going to be on the 5th or 6th shelf because the average male is about 5'10". And things that appeal to children are going to be on the bottom 2 shelves. You will find all your sugar cereals and things like that on the bottom, all your health cereals and your organic cereals and things like that on those middle shelves, and all of your manly type cereals on the higher up shelves. They put these labels on them to catch your eye and bring you in. There is some regulation over what these mean, but it doesn't always mean exactly what you think. So when something says it is a calorie-free food, well, that means it has less than 5 calories per serving. For this example, I use things like spray butter. Spray butter will often say a serving size is 10 sprays, and then it'll say calories, 0. Well, that's not to say that at 11 sprays, you're hitting 6 calories per serving. And so at that point, you have to remember that 10 sprays, okay, but dumping half of your bottle of spray butter on something does not mean that you get no calories for that. A low-calorie food will have less than 40 calories per serving. Again, recognizing that all of these are using the per serving. Therefore, a lot of food products will make their serving sizes smaller in order to be able to make these claims on their labels. So if you see a cereal that says the serving size is 1 biscuit, well, obviously you're not going to eat 1 biscuit, you're going to pour a bowl of biscuits. Therefore, some of the claims that might be on there are not necessarily going to be true. The light means that there are calories from fat reduced by at least 50% or 1/3 total calorie reduction. Anytime you see these reductions and things like that, you have to understand that they may not be from the original product, they can be from a comparable product. And this is going to be more prominent when we look at the 25% less fat and those types of things. For example, when we do cream cheese versus butter. Well, the most comparable product to butter or to cream cheese is butter. So when they say it has 25% less calories or whatever, well, that's compared to butter. Butter and cream cheese, not the same thing, and that's really a tricky claim to make. When you look at fat-free, you have to understand that that means there's less than half a gram of fat per serving. Again, if there is 0.045 grams per serving, well, then you're still going to be able to make that claim of it being fat-free. And if you're taking on more than 1 serving, you may be getting more fat than you think. Sugar, we have right here no FDA definition for a low-sugar food. So any food out there, jelly beans, could claim to be a low-sugar food because there's no regulation over whether or not it has to meet any type of criteria. I also want you to pay attention here that no added sugar and unsweetened does not include any type of sugar alcohols. It means no product with sugar was added during the processing of it. However, they can include the sugar alcohols that we were talking about, like sorbitol, mannitol, xylitol, etc., to create a sweeter effect, and they can still make this claim. Cholesterol-free means it has less than 2 milligrams per serving. Sodium-free, less than half a milligram of sodium. And anything reduced, again, is 25% less per serving of whatever they claim is reduced. So if this is reduced sodium, well, then it has 25 less per serving than the original product. What about some of the claims they put on there? Well, for example, whole wheat or whole grain. You do not know your product is whole wheat or whole grain until you look at the ingredients list and the very first word in the ingredients list is 100% whole wheat or anything like that, because you can have enriched wheat flour and things of that nature, which mean they took the grain, they pulled it apart, and they actually refined it, and then they put the whole grain component back into it. If it does not say on the label 100% whole wheat, then it is not guaranteed that you are getting a whole grain food, and you need to look at the ingredients list and make sure that you are. Made with real fruit. This is another one that is very often misconstrued to mean that it is a healthy product because it's made with real fruit. Well, it just means that it contains 5% fruit or 1% fruit. If they make a big vat of Kool-Aid and they squeeze a strawberry into it, it can make the claim that it was made with real fruit. Does not mean it is 100% fruit juice. And so if you are looking for juices that are nutritious, which again I always recommend you eat the fruit over drinking the juice, but if you are looking for a juice or some kind of fruit product like fruit snacks or something like that, you look for 100% real fruit and not something that just contains real fruit. Fat-free and carb-free. Be aware that a lot of these things are put on products that have always been that way. I always laugh because one time I went to the grocery store and the fruit section, there was the bananas, and the bananas had a big sign sticking out of them that said, "Banana is the perfect afternoon snack, now a fat-free food." And I couldn't stop laughing because I was like, what mean farmer is injecting their bananas with fat? Bananas have never contained fat. They never will contain fat. As long as they're grown naturally the way they do, they are always going to be a fat-free food. That is just the way the grocery store is going to try and advertise it to get you pulled in. Don't fall victim to that. Same thing with your carb-free products. Meat is meat. It's protein or it's protein and fat. There has never been carbohydrates in meat. When the Atkins diet was really popular, I remember walking by my butcher counter that said, all of our meats are zero net carbs. Well, of course they're zero net carbs. They've always been zero net carbs. There's no way you're getting carbs in meat unless you're marinating them in sugar or something. And also be aware that any food or supplement, so any vitamin or mineral supplement, can make a claim that it may do something. The FDA only protects us against direct claims. For example, I can tell you that my supplement may prevent cancer. I don't have to have any research or anything that promotes what I'm saying. I can just make that claim because I didn't tell you that it's going to prevent cancer. So I can cut my hair off and tell you to eat it because it may make your face, your skin clear up. Is it going to happen? I don't know, but it might. And so they can put that claim on there. They can't make the direct claims that it does prevent cancer and it does create weight loss, which is why so many people buy supplements that may promote weight loss when in fact they don't. If there was a magic pill, we would all be skinny.